Alright, we are back with Grey Eyes Chapter 2, titled Monsters. For this commentary, I'm probably not going to talk too much about the pages themselves, and I'm going to focus a little bit more on the translation of what Luke's saying throughout the chapter. I may have a few things to say here and there about the pages themselves, things that I might find are interesting, but overall this is a relatively simple chapter, and there's not too much to discuss really. So, with that, let's get started. Starting off with the cover, we have Luke's beautiful blue hair up against a green background. I was actually expecting some people to pick out that was the river creature, who I like to call RC for short, so from here on out, RC is the river creature. But no one seemed to pick that out, because either they don't know who he is, or because they were too distracted by Luke's hair. But either way, I was happy that people were happy to see RC again. I was happy to draw him again, for the most part. RC is kind of a pain in the butt to draw, which I will talk about a little bit more later. But moving on. So to open the chapter, we just have Luke wandering around. It's kind of a secret about where he is, but we'll get to that later in the dialogue and what he's saying. And so, something to look forward to. Yep, not too much to say about this page. It was nice to do just a simple landscape kind of page, though. I don't do those too often. Okay, so translation. Where are you, my friend? Are you up to some mischief? I miss you. And that's about it for that page. Last panel is that you, my friend? My friend, are you hurt? And that's basically all he's saying on that page. So he's just discovering Mike, who, recently bonked his head and now he's unconscious. And for a moment, Luke almost just walks away because he doesn't want to get involved with whatever Mike's up to because of certain reasons. Again, we'll find out as Luke, he's basically talking to himself throughout this chapter, but we'll find out a little bit later. This page is a little more interesting. So Luke is saying, "Great God and Goddess, forgive me for this transgression." So it has to make you think, what transgression is he doing exactly? If you've read my previous works, you kinda sorta already know, but if you're new to my works, then it'll be a nice surprise later on. It is a whole cultural thing that we get to explore. But without giving away too much, the big thing here is that Luke is touching him while he's in the water. But Mike is hurt, so Luke is willing to perform a sort of taboo here. It's always fun to draw these kinds of interactions, and a big part of why I enjoyed drawing this chapter so much is because I got to really do the contrast between Mike and Luke. So on this page, Luke is saying, "Master, please." Sometimes I forget what I wrote because sometimes I do ad-libs, which is not smart when you when you're doing a different language. Anyway, it's "Master, please, you've been hurt." And then he says, "Forgive me, I was only trying to help you." So Mike is starting to freak out a little bit here because, as you remember from the first chapter, he just found himself in a bunch of water, got shot out, and he's in this weird place. He doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know what's happening, he's starting to freak out, and something almost like a panic attack starts to happen until Luke actually brings him out of it a little bit. And all Luke is saying here is "Master." He says "Master" a lot in this chapter, so if you just focus on those symbols there in the center of the page, you can help yourself crack the code if you want to. Translation for this page. I don't recognize your language. Are you from some far corner of Kazoni Reek? Kazoni Reek is literally translated as desert land, which is a different part of Dwal, which we don't actually get to go to, but it exists. So it's just a different continent. And on the last panel there, Luke is just saying "Master." Since Luke's not really saying anything on this page was basically just so that I could draw a few more backgrounds, a few more things to help add a little more richness to the world, to what we've seen so far. So we get a few flowers, we get a little squirrel rat creature thing, which I tend to design these things on the spot because, I don't know, it's just the way I like to work. So I designed that little guy on the spot. I actually like the way he looks. Maybe I could draw him again sometime. And Luke's being a good little, Gizmo. He's following this guy around, make sure he doesn't fall over or get hurt again. Because, he did have a pretty good head wound there. Translation for this page. The first panel is just I, ... 3 lines in a row, it's just ... So I'm helping you crack the code there. And the second panel, he's saying, Master, we should... being cut off there as we should, so we should. Not too much to say about this page, but it was kind of sort of fun to draw the castle there. That's only like the top part of the castle, there's more around at the base. Yep, I like this page, and especially that bottom panel. I think it turned out fairly well. Plus Mike's freaking out, and that's always fun. So for this page, starting in that third panel there, Master, we should go down river. And you notice is Mike leaving, sorry. And then he says, Master, don't go that way. Another fun thing about Luke is that he does have a really good range of expression, which is something I wanted to really push for Luke, because he could default to a placid kind of face a lot, and we'll see that later actually. But when he's out and alone and with Mike, he moves his face quite a bit. He doesn't have to look pretty all the time, this is what I'm getting at. Luke is saying, Master, don't go to Her Majesty. She won't like that you've been in her gardens. But anyway, it's to the effect of Luke warning Mike not to go towards the castle, because the queen will not like that he's been in her gardens. Alright, down in the lower left corner. So anyway, Luke is just saying you'll find the town downriver. And another fun page, because Luke's making all these funny expressions, and he finally just points downriver, trying to get Mike to go where he should go without going in the river. Not too much to say about this page either, but I do enjoy these walking away panels that I've been doing recently. So just like Mike's feet in the lower left corner there, I had a lot of fun drawing that, and I had a lot of fun drawing all the water effects and everything. It's just been really great finally getting to draw Dwall and the world and everything in more detail than I have before. So in the last panel, Luke is saying, just where can you be from? And then, just who in the world would walk so close to the water without fear? So in this whole chapter, we kind of just get introduced to the fact that people don't go near the rivers for some reason. I wonder why. We'll find out soon. And Mike, being alien to all this, he doesn't care. He's just going to walk in the shallow parts of the river. He doesn't think there's anything to be worried about, but Luke knows better. So on this page, Luke's translation is, you're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Again, just drawing attention to the fact that Mike has no idea that he should not be going near the river, especially not alone. Which Luke is honestly pretty confused about, so he's right in saying that he's either incredibly brave or he's incredibly stupid. And in that panel there, Luke is just saying, I will guide you. I like that panel with the foreshortening on Luke's hand. I think that turned out pretty darn well. I like that panel. And in the last panel, Luke is saying, the river creature will not harm you if I am with you. You'll notice in a couple of these pages that I actually snuck the river creature in the river without drawing too much attention to it. So the river creature is actually there in that bottom panel, and right there in the corner in the bottom right. You can see part of his body, but he can sneak around pretty well, so he's right there. Let's see on this previous page. Yeah, I snuck him in on this page too, just that shadow in that first panel down at the bottom. That's him. So he was following them around for a little while. I wonder why. I'd like to just spill the beans all over the place, but I'm gonna hold back for a little bit, so you guys can just come to enjoy these things as you read it. So I'm gonna keep a few secrets. Luke's not saying anything on this page because he's just focusing on getting Mike out of wherever they are. I guess I actually did give away just through the dialogue that they're in Her Majesty's gardens right now. So Luke is guiding him out of her very large gardens. She's got massive amounts of land, as she should, and this garden just goes on and on and on. And you can see these little human touches in the garden, just with the wind chimes and such, and how everything's been well trimmed and everything. I actually got my sister to draw that little squirrel lizard rat thing because I don't know. I like getting my sister to draw some creatures for me sometimes, just to add an extra level of interest, I suppose. Whoa, I jumped up a couple pages there. Anyway, just to get a different eye on some things that might exist that I may not have created myself. So add an extra dimension. And Luke, being a good servant, and if you've read my previous comics before, I kind of gave away in Grey Eyes of Slaves that Luke is actually a slave, so he's being a good servant, and he's serving Mike some food there because obviously he's hungry. All Luke is saying on this page is "Master," and that's it. But I like drawing this page as well because, again, it was just a nice location kind of page with a lot of panels. It's just sort of showing the world a little bit. But I think my favorite panel is actually 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th panel where the Mike is just saying, "Jesus, it's hot." I don't know why. I think it's just because it's an unusual sort of panel for me to do, just drawing both the characters from behind, and you don't really get to see a lot of them. So it's fun when I push myself to do something a little unusual. On this page, Luke is saying, "You are a fool. Do you desire death?" And that's pretty strong, but if you've read some of my work, or if you've read some of the commentary in some of my work, you'll know that the river creatures have a bad reputation of actually eating people. So that's why Luke is taking this pretty damn seriously, because for all Luke knows, the river creature could have eaten Mike by now. And as Luke has said himself, that the river creature won't harm anyone while he's there, which is a big question. Why does he believe that? But this is another page that I like a lot because, again, the character interaction, but I also got to do some really nice, a little bit of character development on Mike here, because we saw it a little bit earlier before when Mike was having his little panic attack, but here Mike is just getting exhausted and frustrated, and he's having the day from hell right now. And Luke, although he's trying to be helpful, the language barrier is just making it really difficult, so Luke has kind of resorted to pushing and pulling Mike around because he doesn't know what else to do. But Mike, he's had enough. He's had way too much input right now. And what I mean by that is when someone's freaking out, don't touch them a lot, just give them their space a little bit sometimes. So Mike's had enough, and he just finally tries to get Luke to back off a little bit. And it was a lot of fun conveying that through my drawings here. I especially enjoy that last panel with the tightness conveyed in Mike's mouth there. I think that turned out pretty well. And on this page, to continue from the previous page, Mike's even crying a little bit. He's had a really terrible day, and we don't even get to know exactly how he even wound up in the water in the first place. We'll find out later. But yeah, he's had a pretty traumatic day, and it's only gonna get worse from here. But on this page, Luke is saying, "I apologize," even with a bow. And he says, "Forgive me, Master. I forget my place." Then he says, "Allow me." So he just ripped off a stray piece of bark so that he could get Mike some water here. Another nice thing about Gray Eyes so far is that I've gotten to do just a lot of storytelling just through the pictures. So I've had quite a few pages like this where there's not a whole lot of dialogue and it's all just told through the motions of the characters, and it's something I really enjoy doing. But here we actually see some solid evidence of RC just circling around. He's there in that first panel. It's pretty subtle, but he's circling around. He's there in that third panel in the foreground. He's there in the fourth panel, right off at the edge. And of course, he's there in the last panel. He's starting to come out of the water. And the big reveal. It's been a long time since I'd properly drawn RC. And it was nice to visit him again, but honestly, drawing the river creature is kind of a pain in the butt because he's got a lot of details, and I've given him kind of an unusual structure, so he can be a pain in the butt to draw. He can take a long time to draw and to color. He's only got like 3 or 4 colors, but he's got such a pattern that it can be difficult to color him sometimes. And all Luke is saying on this page is, what? He doesn't realize that RC is coming up behind him. I guess RC is much quieter than we give him credit for. And there's the big reveal of RC himself. If you've read my other works, Tales from Erin's Wings, specifically Mutatio, this is the same river creature. This is Vetus's friend, who we all like to call RC. He does have a real name, and I'll get to that in a now thing that I've been meaning to do for the river creature. But it's a long name, and honestly, I probably can't even pronounce it either. And Vetus couldn't pronounce it either. Anyway, here's just another image page. It's cool. I really enjoyed doing the water on this page, all the splashing effects. It took a while to get it to look right, but I'm actually really pleased with it, especially with just that solo water panel, the fourth panel there, where it's just a few drops and the river itself. Anyway, Luke is kind of stunned at this point that Mike has actually jumped into the water with him, and there's a reason why Luke is freaking out a little bit about it. So there's a little bit of a role reversal here. Before Mike was freaking out, and now it's Luke's turn. And like I said just a little bit ago, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why Luke is freaking out. It has to do with that taboo that I mentioned earlier. They're sharing the water, which we'll get to discuss in the comic itself, so something for you guys to look forward to. On this page, Luke is saying in that second panel, and he's kind of stammering, so forgive me if this sounds a little funny, but Master, I can't. And you'll notice on this page that Luke is blushing pretty furiously, because this is a serious taboo that Mike is unknowingly committing. And then Luke goes on to say, "You can't treat me like this. I belong to the Queen." Oh, excuse me, I think he actually says, "You can't treat me this way. I belong to the Queen." Then he says, "I," and he's cut off by noticing RC behind him. And then Luke calms down a little bit. He realizes that Mike may not have known. Well, of course he wouldn't have known. He realizes that Mike was just trying to help him, and he didn't actually mean to commit any sort of taboo. And Luke is just saying, "Now you know why to stay away from the water." And Mike's pretty confused as to why Luke is just suddenly so calm. And here's where things get a little weird. But this was another really fun page for me to draw too, because RC, he's kind of scoping Mike out without him realizing it, especially in that first panel. I really like how that first panel came together. In that first panel, Luke is saying, "You needn't fear, Master. Not while I'm here. He's my friend." And Luke is referring to the river creature. He's my friend. And way back at page 2 or 3 or so, when Luke was talking to himself, he was referring to the river creature. So we've kind of established that RC and Luke are good friends. They've been good friends for a while. And on this page, RC's even playing with him a little bit, poofing some air against the back of Luke's head, and then he's nudging him in that panel. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to draw this page, because even in the past with Vetus and Mutatio, I didn't really draw RC playful, so it was kind of nice to change that up and show a different side to him, however brief it was. And here's kind of a nice breather page, because I got a little panel happy for some of these pages, like this one. It's not too complex, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels, and some other pages I get even more panel happy, so sometimes you need a breather page, so this one's just 4 panels. It's very simple. So on this page, Luke is saying, "Do not hurt him, my friend. He's a stranger here. He means us no harm." And Luke is pretty sure at this point that Mike's just kind of a doofus and he doesn't mean any harm. And, yep, I assume you've read the chapter, so RC does actually understand what Luke is saying to him. But at this point, Luke didn't actually know if RC, completely understands him, but they've had a long relationship, which, again, we'll get to later. And he, at this point, more or less thought that RC understood him fairly well. So he knows he's intelligent. This page was, again, it was fun to draw, but it's an involved kind of page. Because the blocking can be a little difficult just because RC is such an enormous creature, so you kind of have to block things out a little more carefully. Translation for this page, Luke is in the first panel just saying, "Master!" Because he wasn't expecting RC to get so up and close with Mike so quickly. And then Luke is saying, "My friend, you're frightening him." And I really like that 4th panel. RC's eyes turned out really well. You can even start seeing a little bit of a tinge of the magic happening. And we'll learn all about the magic later, but you even saw a little bit of it in Mutatio. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, just go look up Tales from Aaron's Wings, Mutatio. And the river creature here, he can use magic. He's very adept with it. He is way more powerful than he'll even admit. So, and in the last panel, he's actually using the magic to help Mike. Everyone was expecting this page to just suddenly have Mike just suddenly understand their language. And to be honest, in the past, way back when this was like 15-year-old Misty's project, I did think about having some sort of magic spell or something like that happen so that Mike could just immediately understand their language, so that you could proceed a little more easily. And this was even before I had the river creature in existence, so I don't even remember exactly who or how or why it happened. But Mike, in one of the very first iterations, did have some sort of magic spell cast on him so that he could just understand their language. But I threw that out fairly quickly because honestly, it's a cheat. And I don't want to cheat this because the language barrier is something that it's interesting to me. It adds a little bit more tension, a little more conflict. It's more realistic. And this way, both Mike and Luke have to learn about each other a lot more carefully, which is something that I enjoy. And I hope you'll enjoy too. So this page got a little bit out of control because I felt the need to do so many panels. I think it turned out fairly well, but again, I got a little panel happy. But RC, he's just doing some magic, helping Mike, not only by healing his head wound, but he is also helping him relax. It's something that they can do with the magic. And then those last 2 panels, it was fun to draw a different angle of RC's head, because I kind of default to the profile for RC, because honestly I just like drawing him in the profile. But I also like drawing those him from the front with just his eyes being shown. It's a little more interesting, I suppose. And you can see him canceling the magic spell there. His eyes were glowing pretty hard, but then he turns it off as Mike heals and then relaxes. But Luke's been watching this whole time, and he's pretty flabbergasted, pretty much as Mike is. So in that last panel, Luke is just saying, "Did you just speak?" because up until this point Luke had no idea that RC could actually speak. He may have known that he was an intelligent creature, but he didn't know that he was as intelligent as a human might be, or maybe even more so, which he is. So in the past, if you'll just jump back to the page where they're kind of playing around, it was almost more like, it was a friendship, but it was almost more like a pet kind of thing, which RC, he liked, but they were never exactly on even ground exactly. Luke didn't like mistreat him or anything. They were very good friends, and still are. But again, Luke had no idea that RC was an intelligent creature. And on this page, translation, we actually get to see that not only can RC speak English, as shown on this page, he can also speak Luke's language. And just as an extra note, RC, he knows a lot of languages. He's a highly intelligent creature. He's got a great memory. And it's not really brought up within the comic, so I'll just throw it out there. He's actually traveled to other worlds before. There are more than one gate on the Dwal. So he's done some traveling in the past, not so much recently, due to certain events which we will discuss in the comic. But he has many languages that he knows, and he is very articulate as well. So in this panel, RC is speaking, and he's saying, "Take care of this one, my friend. He's important, just as you are." And Luke is saying, "Great God and Goddess," because he had no idea that RC could speak. So Luke, on this previous page, he sort of figured that he was speaking Mike's language, but again, it's a language that Luke doesn't know, so that's why he had to ask, did you just speak? And yes, he did. And then he switches language like at the drop of a hat there, because he's that intelligent. And that kind of freaks Luke out a little bit, but they're still very good friends, as you can see in the third panel. Luke is not afraid of his friend there, so he's still willing to touch him, and he's still willing to be friends and everything, so don't worry about that. But now Luke has a lot to think about. Who is this guy? Why does RC know or think that they're both important? And why does he think that Luke should take care of him? So it was a lot of fun for me to do this page as well, because a lot of good looking panels, which is something I really enjoy doing. So Luke is sort of recovering from hearing his friend speak for the very first time. He had never heard him speak before. So RC slides away, but then he shifts his gaze to where Mike is, and we see the last of RC there in that 1, 2, 3, 4 on that 5th panel. And then Mike returns a similar look. And last page of the chapter, I'm pretty darn happy with this page too. There were a lot of good pages in this chapter, which I'm very pleased about. So Luke just offers him his hand, and this time there's no tugging or pulling, there's no pushing, there's nothing too physical happening. It's a nice medium that they found just in this last page. And all Luke is saying is just come, and then come again. In that last panel. And they head off downriver. To where? We'll find out in chapter 3. We'll find out pretty much on like the first page. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this little translation and bits of commentary here and there. And join me for next time.